Hi, I'm Kevin Murray, Vice President of Product and Offer Marketing here at iPass. With the increase in usage of smartphones and tablets, we're seeing an increased demand for Wi-Fi. So we've recently announced the iPass Open Mobile Exchange, a way for service providers to use Wi-Fi as a strategic asset. So with me here today is our President and CEO, Evan Kaplan. Evan, thanks for being here.
Hey Kevin, how you doing?
Good to see you. So let's talk a little bit about the industry. What's going on in the industry that really necessitated the need for the iPass Open Mobile Exchange?
So at a macro level, the phenomenon seems pretty obvious to most people who are looking at it closely is that we're seeing the rate of data going up, mobile data going up dramatically, probably way more than people expected 3 or 4 years ago. And the amount of spectrum, backhaul, tower, the amount of regulated or defined spectrum available to do that is increasingly hard to come by. And so you're finding revenue on the carrier side for the mobile operators growing at 1.3, 1.4 times a year, but you're finding data rates growing, depending on the analyst, 6 or 8 times a year. And so you've got a kind of a scissoring effect, which is really, really making it difficult to see how the long-term profits are going to be there to serve the kind of data that's required as people have more devices, pads, phones, and laptops, and machine-to-machine communication.
Okay, so lots of data, lots of devices, a lot of demand. So what do the service providers really want out of Wi-Fi specifically for this?
So it's a good question. So I think they want 3 or 4 things, but it's a unified concept that ties it together. So I think if you start with the first level of stuff is they want higher service levels, right? So they want to be able to take some of this internet-based data, which most of it is, and not run it through the 3G course. They want to offload wherever possible and get a better service experience. We're seeing it here in the US with AT&T, and we're seeing it around the world. They want a better service experience for people with devices, pads, and the like. 2 is they want to offer global roaming is becoming a real problematic nightmare. The effective rate on average is between $10 and $15 a meg, which is equivalent to checking your email. For people who are traveling internationally, both leisure and business travel, it becomes cost prohibitive. People don't know what to do. They don't know whether to turn on their phones or not. And a lot of the carriers want to make an offer to their consumers to say, hey, here's a global Wi-Fi plan. Pay X dollars a month and $8, $10 a month or whatever it is, and be able to roam Wi-Fi around the world. The third thing they want is roam-in capability. So they're building out Wi-Fi networks. China Mobile is building out 1 million. China Telecom is building out 1 million. AT&T is building out in the US. Deutsche Telekom is building out in Germany. And they want people to roam into their Wi-Fi infrastructure. So increasingly what you're seeing is carriers who are growing sensitive to the fact that Wi-Fi, this unregulated spectrum, is becoming a part of a must-have in their offerings. And they want to bring these Wi-Fi devices, which probably ship at a 3-to-1 ratio to cellular devices. You want to bring them under the fold of the brand, under the AT&T brand, under the Deutsche Telekom brand, under the Verizon brand, right? They want to author those.
So it sounds like they want to extend their core network. They see Wi-Fi as a strategic way to do that, and you're talking about customer sat as well. They want to please their customers, maybe reduce some of that churn out there, right?
So all 3. So it's a top-line revenue, it's a customer service issue, and it's a use of their own infrastructure issue. I think the most important part is all of these devices are shipping with Wi-Fi. I think the carriers would like to have their brand on those or have their service offering.
Absolutely. So what are we doing to really meet those needs? It's a little bit about, tell us a little bit more about the Open Mobile Exchange. How are we meeting those needs?
Yeah, so we probably should start from a frame of references. What we've been doing for the last, we get a couple of million enterprise users every year who show up on our network. And we service the largest enterprises in the world, everybody from Intel to Kraft to Procter & Gamble to companies like that. So we've developed a real expertise about as high availability as you can be in Wi-Fi, and we also have the world's largest Wi-Fi network, over 500,000 hotspots, and we expect that to grow pretty dramatically over the next couple of years as carriers build out more Wi-Fi. And so we've adopted a position in the industry, we're a neutral party. So basically what we've built over the years is an authentication fabric to tie all this together. And so what we're doing with the Open Mobile Exchange is letting other people participate in that fabric so they can very quickly authenticate and enable Wi-Fi really quickly for their.
Okay, so really the concept of the exchange here is a hub, a way for them to actually join and trade traffic or whatever it is, extend their own network. Is that right?
So they can authenticate to each other's network without having to duplicate equipment all the time and do that. And they can create bilateral agreements. They know how to wholesale with each other. They've been doing it for years in the GSM world. Yeah. They've been doing it for years in the landline world. And what we want to do is be in a place where we facilitate that. So and just as a follow-on, and we have 2 or 3 technology components. We have the authentication fabric, we have the back-end user management system that sits in the cloud, and then we have all of the client software and APIs to allow them to quickly integrate to their smartphones and their devices and that sort of stuff.
Let's talk a little bit about why, again, this strategic asset, we've got all these assets that are ours, it gives them a bit of a head start. So we're talking about time to market here, right? Is that fair?
It's absolutely time to market.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I guess a carrier could go out and build all of these connections, all of our 300 plus network providers around the world, and go build equipment and put them in them and carve them out and that sort of stuff. But it would take a long time. Yeah. And it's something we've been doing for 12 years.
Yeah. So some of them are still doing that, but they're also potentially working with us. You talked about China Mobile, China Telecom.
Right.
They're still building it out, right?
A lot of them are working with us already. When you look at Telstra, you look at Deutsche Telekom, you look at Orange. So we have good relationships there already, and we're just extending that. So think of it as our historical experience has been in the enterprise, and increasingly we view the carriers as the route to mass markets, the mobile service providers, as they adopt Wi-Fi in their book of business.
That's a great jumping off point here. So you talk about the enterprise and our history there. Really, how does this fit into our strategy? You talk about the mass market. I mean, is this a big departure? Is it a natural extension of our strategy? What do you think about that?
So one, it's a natural extension of our technology, which is probably our platforms, our capability, the stuff we're doing, particularly the stuff we've been doing the last 2.5 years. So that's very exciting. If you can repurpose your technology and use it for an expanded market. It's a vision we had 2.5 years ago when this team joined, and so it's a vision we're now executing against. But we view Wi-Fi, the second wave of Wi-Fi is so important, that Wi-Fi is so elemental to, particularly in Europe and Asia and South America, it's so elemental to the mix that we didn't feel like we could keep going without starting to address the mass market. And given our relationship with the service providers and our technology foundation, the way we do that is we partner with the mobile service operators.
So any closing comments or thoughts?
Probably just, it can sound cliche, but to talk about sort of the huge sea change that's going on. But as it applies to this specific segment of the industry, I think we all know the outward things of more devices, more network, all that sort of stuff. But I think the foundational sea change is this relationship between the licensed spectrum of GSM and LTE and those technologies and the unlicensed spectrum. Yeah. And the carriers who negotiate that gracefully as a proxy for their end users, for their mass market, are the ones that are going to thrive. And the ones who are, the ones who are moving quickly on this and doing a good job are the ones that are really going to have something to offer. And I think all of a sudden, in a world in which 3G and 4G is very confusing what's what, being able to offer a Wi-Fi service becomes a competitive differentiator for those carriers.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for your time and your insight. It's a pleasure to talk to you today.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it.
And thank you for watching. For more information on the iPass Open Mobile Exchange, check out iPass.com. Thanks.